Rocko Reedy, are you serious? The guy that drives the forklift truck when the forklift truck driver's gone for a piss? The guy that screams and barks and shouts at all the crew and all the unions and they ignore him anyway? The guy that sound checks for every band he works for because he thinks he's a rock star? What the fuck is he doing? MCing a dog show?
Okay, be forewarned
Yep.
that I do not have that gland that stops what's going on here from coming out here.
Oh.
So
That's interesting, Rocko Reedy, because I appear to be missing the same clan. that
exactly.
stops us-
That's why I knew we'd get along. There are similarities. Our haircut, first of all, there, you know.
right off the top.
Except you carry your haircut down here, and I put mine
Yeah.
up here.
As the British guys say, I've got my face on upside down, right? Rocko Reedy, man, really happy to have you, excited to have you. You know, we've been chatting for a long time, and we've...
Can you excuse me just 1 second?
Yeah, man.
You know, I just want to finish 20, 60, 80, 900, 20, 40, 68. Fuck. It's my Taylor Swift bonus. They shorted me $50. And I feel bad because I don't want to say anything, but by the same token, where'd it go?
Wow, bro. What a bonus that was, huh?
Honest to God, you know what? I have a deep respect for her. Well, first of all, you know who her manager is, right?
No.
Her manager is Robert Allen, brother of the one-armed drummer from Def Leppard.
No way.
And he used to be tour manager for Def Leppard, All in the Family and everything from their beginnings to, all the way through their successful career. And then when Def Leppard kind of slowed things down and their career was kind of down just a bit, and it came back. I was working for him at that point in time. And we were out doing the State Fair circuit and all the rest of that. But Robert Allen at that point was working for Tim McGraw and Faith Hill when they went out and toured together. And they had a 17-year-old opening for him called Taylor Swift. So that's how he got the connection. And then, was nice to her, took her under his wing, and talk about timing and, good decisions. And Robert is a great guy and a very smart man. So, but what was interesting is that my connection was I was working for Def Leppard as production manager at the time. And this was 2007. So anyway, sometime in the past. And they were doing those country music station crossroads thing where we took a rock band and a country artist and put them together and shot them in some Nashville theater. So we were down there doing that. And she was 17 and cute as a button and just real nice and very talented. And you knew that she was going to be big.
Yeah.
But there was just something about her and Joe Elliott, who's big guy, great guy, but he's a fucking linebacker size. And him singing to this 17-year-old girl the lyrics to Pour Some Sugar on Me while they're face to face in a microphone. It's just a little creepy, but still, it was crossing the audiences correctly. And as well as I do.
Oh, yeah.
From that point on, country music or new country or whatever you want to call it was essentially just 90s rock like Def Leppard with a pedal steel and a violin in it. It's just Mutt Lange, across the board. So
all true.
But I commend her and think it's really cool. Arthur Kemish is her production manager. Great guy, huge production. Tons of costumes and everything. I haven't seen it, but heard nothing but great things about it. And I say, good on them.
Yeah, dig that. I mean, I've been on tour with her. She's been on Jingle Ball a couple times, and
of course, yeah.
I did a lot of shows with her when she was younger, and didn't have the star power, and she was always cool, and she was always easy to deal with, and she always seemed like somebody that really got it. That like where you are and what you're doing is a very unique thing. You're a part of an elite group that got picked out of the group of all of it, and I thought that she was delivering the product that her fans wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And did it with class. So I commend her for that,
Well, and I think it's also great because as well as I do that the days of Pink Floyd, U2, Rolling Stones, big stadium shows like that where they could sell out stadiums worldwide, they're dwindling.
Oh,
And and I think that people will still go out to big shows and everything, but men of our age, men of our experience and stuff like that, I'm sure you do the same thing I do when you see festivals advertised and you run down the list of artists that are playing there and you haven't heard of 85% of them. Yeah. And the 15% that you do recognize, only about 10% of those are ones that you've actually ever worked or seen or whatever. The rest of them are just, and that's what I'm saying is that artists have to conglomerate now to get that kind of a stadium audience, unless you're Taylor Swift, and I commend her for that. For the longest time, U2 had the world record for the most money of a tour when we did that 360 tour for 3 years or however long we were out with it, the 200 semi-truck tour. And it was the biggest thing I've ever done. I'm proud of the fact that we did it. But I thought it was very interesting that in 2019? I think it was, but more recently, our record as far as the highest grossing tour ever was broken by one guy. One guy who was my opening act when I was doing a Snow Patrol tour in 2012. Ed Sheeran.
Really?
Yeah.
Ed.
One guy with a looper pedal. Okay.
This is another guy, Ed Sheeran, that I've had on my stage. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've been on stage with him. And he's another guy that just kind of cruises through with his, doesn't have any like star power attitude, just kind of muddles out there and does his thing. Just
interesting fella though. You would figure his backstory is, he was, just busking in the subways of London or whatever, and the rest of that. Yeah. He actually came from a very wealthy family, very well-to-do, and just started, playing and stuff. But his whole thing is he's a great player, super managed, very, clear, but it's his own style. And when it's Ed Sheeran, you can tell it's him. But when he plays, it's just, I'm astounded with how entertaining he is for just a single guy. And when he's out there now in stadiums, a single guy on a stadium with one guitar and a looper pedal, and he's entertaining. But that to me that's the new generation. Right now, because you have artists who aren't getting mailbox money, I'll call it, selling albums. Nobody buys albums anymore. It was funny. One of the singers in the big band that I worked for one time said to me, I don't think we're radio relevant anymore. I go, I don't think radio is relevant anymore. Nobody listens to radio to hear songs. You listen to it to hear the news or whatever while you're driving, whatever. But everything now is, you don't go out and buy albums. I used to go out, and I'm sure you did too. I would buy an album just because it had a cool fucking cover.
Oh yeah.
But nobody does that anymore. Nobody buys even CDs anymore. Think about that. Think about how quickly, in the relative realm of music, how quickly cassettes, 8-tracks, CDs, and all the rest of that stuff went by. Records are still there, but think about the technology of what that is. It's a needle scratching a piece of vinyl, and that's the best way to go. No, you get it because you download a song, but how do you get hip to what's a good song? Well, you can listen to the radio and you might hear something on your local rock station, but they're not answering to record companies anymore. So where I'm going with this whole thing is that the only way that you really make your money is by playing live and by selling tickets. And if you go out there and the more money you spend on production, the less money you're taking home.
Yep.
So it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out that, the only way that you're going to make money is either carry a smaller production or restyle your whole way of thinking. And I think about to all the tours that I've done through the years, and I know about you, and I know I'll regret saying this, and people will quote me for it, and I hope they do, but I hate white glovers.
Oh,
I hate guys that are out on the bus bitching about they can't watch anything except reruns of Mayberry. And there's nothing else that the bus will pick up. Or they go, I swear to you, I'm not lying to you. I had LD come into my production office one time and go, I know you drive the buses occasionally. Would you mind moving the bus a little bit so that I can get better reception on the satellite dish? I just looked at him like this.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Bless
I
them.
mean, you're right. I mean, I'm doing a stadium show next week, and I guarantee you that Mr. Walker will be dragging chain across the floor. You
Yeah.
know, my hands get dirty because I shake hands with the work. I get in there, and I tell you, one of the primary reasons that I do is because I'm a leader and I lead by example. And I don't want to hear it from any 30-year-old that's fading against standing next to me and I'm 60 and I'm keep on going. I don't want to hear your shit. And if I ask somebody to do something, I want it known to the entire crew that I'm asking you to do something that I'm absolutely willing to do, you know.
Yeah. And you think you're leading by example, but let me tell you, after a replaced hip, a replaced ankle, and 2 replaced knees, nobody gives a fuck. All right.
I don't.
They just think you're nuts.
Hey,
Nobody's sitting there going, wow, it's great that he leads by example. They're going, what a dumb fuck. Or they're
I
thinking
know.
to themselves, I want to tell him so bad, work smart, not hard. It's like,
There's a lot to be said for that. A lot to be said for that. That's for sure. Well,
my
Rocko,
point being,
yeah, go ahead.
is that I think that the only way that live music will continue being successful is if they retool their whole way of doing business. I gotta, I work with some young bands now and then just to give them a little bit of a leg up. Snow Patrol was one of those bands that would come out with different tours I were on as the opening act, and I'd treat them like rock stars.
Sure.
Come on, guys, get this shit in the truck. Let's go. Come on. Hop to it. Let's go. We did it all night. Remember, if it starts to fall, throw your body under it for the good of the show. Got it. Good.
And make them feel special, because I know that a lot of times you can tell in advance that they ain't going to make it. They're not going to be up in the realm of Taylor Swift and U2. They're going to be,
Not everyone makes the jump to light speed.
no, and there's a lot of bands out there that are really good and really talented that the world just never hears about. There's also a lot that go out and get very rich and famous, and you go, for what? Yeah. We won't name names, but it's just that they're out there, and and there's an audience. But I took 21 Pilots who live 7 blocks from here when they in 2013.
Great guys,
super guys.
Yeah.
But I took them under my wing, and somebody said you should go out and check these guys out. And part of my clean and sober thing is I don't go to bars anymore. So I said, well, I don't go to bars. They go, well, they're playing in a church. I was like, okay, I can go to a church. There's wine there, but I can get by without it. And so I went and saw them, and it wasn't my cup of tea musically, but their energy was just, for just 2 guys was really amazing. And they're playing with a track while he's singing and playing keyboards and the drummer's going on, but nobody's yelling Milli Vanilli. And in today's world, nobody gives a fuck. Everybody gives a track. Yeah. So anyway, I listened to them and I'm going, yeah, these are nice kids. So I said, look, let me, help you out. And I met their manager, and their manager, his field of experience was with Christian rock bands. And I said, okay, whatever. So I put on a show with them, and I got them a huge production at a venue here that holds 6,000 people for their shed side. And I did a big show, got all the equipment for free, designed the show, blah, blah, woof, woof, sold out, did really well and everything like that. And, so then I took them out when I was production manager for Fall Out Boy, because they were on the same label. So it was Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and 21 Pilots in their first arena tour. And I made them feel like rock stars.
Come on, guys, get this shit in the truck. Let's go. Come on. Hop to it. Let's go.
And through all of it, I had a great reception. Their album was taken off and everything. Through all of it, I said, save your money. I go, because fame is a very fleeting thing. And no matter how talented you are, right now you're out there and you're playing great songs, but the bucket doesn't have, it's got a bottom to it. Eventually you're going to hit that bottom. So it's to save your money and be smart about it. I said, the second thing, and I didn't tell them this until their last show we were playing at in LA at, I want to say Honda Center or whatever it's called this week. Anyway, big sold out show and everything. And right before they go, I go, just want to tell you something before we part ways. I go, you're probably never going to see me again because of what I'm about to tell you. I've seen enough bands out there that I know your manager is a douchebag and he's not going to help your career. So be open to changing management once you really start get going here. And they're like, oh, we can't do that. Blah, blah, I said, okay, I'm just putting it out there, but I've seen it many times before where you have to just make tough decisions and not keep working with all the guys you went to high school with.
Yeah.
Just, because there's a lot of very experienced, and it's a big world out there. So anyway, boring story short, they went back and told the manager that I said that, and he came to me and says, "Did you say that to my kids?" Yeah, because they tend to lie. So I'm like, oh, they never lie, and yes, I did say that. He goes, "Why would you say something like that?" I go, "Because you need to get off your ass." So fast forward to they became the biggest band on the planet in 2018. They were selling out everywhere. Their record was started at #1 and all the rest, so very successful. But then after that, when COVID hit, they were home and nobody was touring. And the singer was just trying to joke. And somebody in his fan thing said, well, why don't you, while you're off, use your downtime to get behind something worthwhile like Black Lives Matter and use your platform to advance that. And he came back and his manager said, oh, yeah, that'll be hilarious. He came back holding a pair of tennis shoes that were made into platform Kiss boots kind of thing. And he goes, yeah, I should use my platforms more often. I haven't played these in a long time. Okay, stupid joke, dumb, and everything else. But his fan base canceled him.
Ooh.
And that's what fans do now. And I'm not familiar with it, but apparently if you got a successful career, if you get canceled on the internet, you're done. Yeah. And sure enough, their next album came out. And they were making jokes because it was coming out the same day as Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga were doing that soundtrack from A Star Is Born, releasing that album. And they did a parody joke thing, because they knew that both their records were coming out and they would both be vying for #1. Did a parody where they were, he's leaning over the guitar and the drummer's in his face, same as Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga did their album cover. Anyway, they released the album, came out. Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper at #1, 21 Pilots at #2. A week later, 21 Pilots at #40. 2 weeks later, 21 Pilots at #90. 4 weeks later, gone. Off the charts. Well, fine, album sales don't necessarily reflect anything. But then they went out and did a tour. Ticket sales were abysmal. And it comes down to, they could come back. But you have to have good management get behind you, because record companies aren't pushing your shit anymore. They don't, they haven't got, most of them are just a PO box anymore, unless you're with, with the big ones. And even at that, the big ones don't take little things out. But whole thing is the whole music business is changing. So the next band that I worked with was a thing called Call Me Charisma. And you've never heard of them, I'm sure.
No.
I'd never heard of him, but the drummer was a local kid here and he was really good. And him and his twin brother used to come over here and just, jam with me and stuff. And I tried to help their baby band get going, but they were a boy band who was 24 years old, which is too old.
Over the curve.
Yeah. So anyway, this drummer got in a band with just one other singer guy who does all of his stuff at home on his little, laptop computer, but he does okay. And he's, it's not my cup of tea musically. But when they were going out there, he goes, well, listen, we got to put the crew together. I go, no, for what? I go, what do you need? A tour manager? What does he do? Book your hotels, book your flights? You can do that.
Yep.
So they started to think about it. They go, yeah, we could do everything. So they hired one guy to be their front of house guy. He also sets up, the T-shirts with the local venue, gives them that. So he's in charge of T-shirts and stuff like that. The drummer takes care of the tour manager things where he does hotel bookings and flights and all that. And advancing their show at the venues. They don't travel with any gear except a drum kit, and the guy has a microphone and his rig for playing the track. And he's a lot of energy on stage, jumping all over the place. And they're huge in Europe, in festivals and playing. Over there, there's tons more concert clubs. Have you been? You've been touring in Europe before, so you know what I'm talking about. They hold 2,000 people, but you go in.
It's a completely different entertainment experience.
Exactly. And you go in and, people are like, well, you don't get your own production. You need the production value of the video and the lights and this and that. People don't give a fuck.
They don't.
They don't care. You know, I'm sure you're like me. The first time I was on a Styx tour, the first time they had Verilights, first time they moved the lights up and down like that once, the audience is cheering and stuff because they've never seen that before.
Right.
It's voodoo, it's magic. Now it's like nobody cares.
Bro, I was a stagehand sitting at a catering table, and the band Los Lobos sat at my table, and they were talking about that the tour was almost over and they had no money, and I just kind of just mentioned to them, I said, well, guys, you know, if you want to have some money at the end of the tour, stop carrying all this production with you, just use local production.
Yeah.
And it just like washed over their face. And a year later, I was the monitor guy with the local production when they came in with just a bus, you know, and nobody explains it to the artist ever clear enough that at the end of the day, it's your money, man.
Yeah. And anymore, you get in the clubs, you get really good gear.
Oh, everything sounds
it's not
good.
like they're giving you an old Yamaha $3,000. You know, it's like
This ain't the 80s.
No consoles, it's, you know, and
Yeah.
then moving lights and all the rest of that stuff. When COVID hit, I was trying desperately to come up with a way that we could all keep touring safely. Because you know as well as I did, when it all went away hard. And then when it was starting to come back, people, you know, oh, we've got a guy on our tour who's responsible for making sure everybody is COVID compliant, and, you know, check them every day and test them and all the rest of that. It's like, yeah, who'd you get? You got some guy who was third guy on the audio crew who was out of work. You know?
I toured with the COVID compliant team, and it was like touring with the TSA. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. You know, actually, I got to show you what I invented.
Perfect.
Under here,
yeah.
Can't hear me. Under here is two fans out of a laptop with HEPA filters pleated, so you get more coverage for it, and it filters down to 5 microns. Got a company out of Utah to make these things. They were selling them for $300, but you couldn't even get somebody to wear a mask for free.
Yeah.
Know? But I was trying to come up with something so that you go from town to town and not get it or spread it through the stage crew or, you know, whoever. Didn't go over. I went to Live Nation with it, and they're going, yeah. No.
That's about what I had to wear for the VMAs.
Yeah.
I had to have a mask and a face shield. It's like, and I'm trying to explain to these people that, you know, my job is to interact with the artist to get their sound together on stage. Instead of me mouthing what I'm saying from 10 feet away, now because my face is covered up, I got to get right up to the artist. I got to get right up to their ear. Now we're getting closer, having to communicate in this loud environment. Say la vie. Rocko, let me ask you one question.
Yeah.
Where did you get started and where did you grow up?
I grew up in the fabulous city of Chicago.
Oh, I know. I've been
and when I was in high school, we had a youth center that used to get bands of the day in the late 60s, early 70s. Bands like, you remember Crow?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ides of March, Jamestown Massacre, Crying Shames, you know, bands like that used to play at our youth center through a Shure Vocal Master PA.
Beautiful.
And so we didn't call ourselves stagehands. We just humped the gear for them. Yeah. You know, because that was my job at this
We're the
youth
guys.
Center. Well, yeah. And then it turned into, I was running that youth center after I graduated from the high school. And Styx used to play there, you know, before they erupted into one of the leading rock bands in arena rock in the early 70s.
What year was this?
1974.
Okay.
So I mean, they were out playing and stuff, but they were opening for Queen and Kiss and, you know, big arena bands of the day because they didn't want to be known as a bar band.
Sure.
Or, you know, and anytime they would play a concert, they'd play high schools, but they would present it as a concert. You know, back in the days where you didn't have barricade or seats and everybody sat on the floor. It was very nice and all of that.
And this is pre their first release.
I'm sorry?
This is pre their first release. Before their first
they
album.
had put out 2 albums, but it was regional at best. You know, it wasn't.
Yeah, Lady wasn't a hit yet.
Exactly. Okay. And then through back then when radio was relevant, through the radio station there, they had a bunch of their fans around Chicago call in to WLS, world's largest store. Sears owned it. And it had the strongest signal from Chicago. Actually, if you grew up in Cleveland, you could probably hear it from there, but it was a strong enough AM radio signal everybody hear. Well, they called in and requested the song a whole bunch, so it became a hit, and Lady did. And then from there, they were able to go out and get promoters, and Jam Productions in Chicago got behind them and promoting them around the Midwest and stuff like that. And it just started spreading out. So it got to a point where they could finally afford a guitar tech. And through the local music store that I used to go in, I came in right as their tour manager, Jim Vos, was putting a piece of paper on the front of the cash register that said, wanted guitar tech for Styx. And I grabbed it and I said, I'm your guy.
I'm in, yeah.
And at that point, I was making $90 a week working at a music store. And I suddenly got up to $300 a week.
Holy crap.
1974, that was a lot of fucking money.
Big money, brother.
Yeah. So I went out and started working for them. And literally 2 weeks after I started working for them, they exploded nationally and just, became one of the biggest bands. That went on until 1976. When they got the guitar player, John Kurlewski, left, and they got a new guitar player named Tommy Shaw into the band. And he was phenomenal talent and great songwriter and everything. So between him and the other two songwriters, they started writing hit songs, and they put out an album called Crystal Ball, and it was getting international radio airplay. So
that was a great album.
Yeah. Oh, they were all great albums, and they were great guys. And for me, it took me out of the sweet innocence of where I was at, and we'll get to that story of before rock and roll later, but brought me out and introduced me to sex and drugs and rock and roll in that order.
Down.
Exactly. And, back in those days, women would line up, because this was before AIDS. They'd line up and negotiate a backstage pass. And,
yes.
But I was out there, and because I had never paid my dues playing in the clubs or anything like that, I played in bands and clubs, but nothing big. So I was suddenly thrust into this big world of professional rock and roll with no rule book or instructions of how to work or behave. So I was very conscientious about my job. I mean, I would polish the guitars, change the string, tune them over and over and over and over, before the start of the show. And right before the start of the show, I used to feel my pulse on my neck, and it was just going because I was so nervous.
Yeah.
So
well, how old are you at this point?
At that point, I was 20.
Yeah. You're a 20-year-old dude, man. Right out of high school, you don't even know what it's all about, and you're in the midst of it.
That's what I mean. And, and back then it was just, it's okay, I'm part of this big world and everything. And then they go, all right, so Crazy Eights on the bus. I'm like, what? Crazy Eights. I go, what's that? They go, well, a gram of cocaine is $80. You get it, and you cut it into 8 lines. Everybody comes out, throws down $10. Crazy Eights. And you start it and go back to work. And it's like, oh, that sounds very social.
I'll get involved.
So, and I'll never forget, we were at Alpine Valley Music Theater. It was one of my first shows, and the first time we were going to ride a tour bus. And I did some cocaine. And the first time I did cocaine, had no effect on me. Didn't feel nothing. But then the second, third, fourth, and fifth time, it started kicking in gear.
You got the cut line.
Yeah, I'm out there gacked out of my mind, drinking Heinekens, sitting behind the tour bus about 3 feet away from the tailpipe of the generator, blowing in my face because I don't know any better, and I'm fucked up. I'm 20 years old, young and dumb and dumb. So a bus driver comes up. This guy is like 6'8".
Good old Texan.
A gentleman from Nashville, Tennessee. Gerald Howe was his name. We called him Bassman. His claim to fame was, back in the day, he used to be a gospel singer. And that's how gospel was one of the first people to travel by tour bus.
Oh, yeah.
They made bunks in them and stuff
Revivals,
like that. Yeah. So, that was where it came from originally. But he's over there and he's going, is this a desperate cry for help that I should be paying attention to? Or do you want to get help? I'll never forget that one. And he goes, boy, if you're going to snort cocaine, you got to share it with me. That's like, I developed a fantastic cocaine and Jack Daniels habit. And that
and friendships.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody was doing it at the time. It wasn't until the 80s where everybody was doing it, but nobody was admitting to it. And they would sit in their hotel room staring out the peephole till 5 o'clock in the morning, staring at their watch. If I went to sleep right now, I could get 45 minutes of sleep before loading.
Yeah, and you stare at the ceiling for 44 minutes, then you get up.
Such a good time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I quit drinking and doing cocaine in 1989. 1988. 1988. I quit because I quit I quit being in a band. I wanted to get serious about my career and I wanted to hunker down, and I just quit partying. I quit all of it. And and since then I haven't been drunk since 88. And now if I smell alcohol, it's like,
Yeah.
And
I mean, we're way over it at this point, but
yeah.
Fortunately, we didn't die at age 27, which is what most successful rockers do. So,
no doubt about that. So, how long were you with Styx for?
That was from 74 until the first time that they broke up, which was 1982. And
then I've definitely seen your show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and that I remember we had the guy who used to do commercials with the deep voice, who did Bear Aspirin commercials. And he did this commercial as the Styx show was coming to your town. You heard this thing of 5 miles of cable, 5 semi trucks, 5 band members. It's going to be a fine time tonight with. And I'm thinking, 5 miles of cable, 5 semi trucks. I got that much shit with just dressing room shit anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, no doubt.
And but it's the humble beginnings that you start with, and it's considered huge and big and all the rest of that stuff. But then as you move on, it's it developed into bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you went along.
Do you remember any of your support acts from those days on the Styx tour?
Yeah. Let's see, what was it? Chilliwack. Remember that?
No, I don't. I missed Chilliwack.
Yeah, we had a lot of Canadian bands for some reason, and Styx was huge in Canada. This was the other thing too. Their manager was a guy named Derek Sutton, who used to be, he's just a big bear of a man, and he used to be the security guy for 10 years after in the 60s. When, because back then everybody was just, if you had an English accent, you were royalty, right?
Oh, no doubt. And you could be a dick.
Yeah. This guy was another thing. We're being at the right place at the right time. He was out doing something on some tour. I want to say it was the Queen tour, and Styx was opening up. And he, their manager was a douchebag. So he says, your manager's a douchebag. I need to manage you. And he took him, and he did a lot of really unusual things that really got Styx huge in America. He never would allow them to do interviews, which just made them sexier, because then you didn't know what they talk like, what they look at. That plus, musicians are stupid. It's like, don't just.
You do not want to hear what they think.
Yeah.
Ruin it.
That was one thing. The other thing is we would tour across Canada in January when nobody in their right fucking mind would be up there.
No doubt about that.
You remember those days where you go to open your truck, you take your glove off, put your hand to open it, and your hand gets stuck to the fucking truck lever on there?
Bro, we've had ice sheets across the backs of the truck where the guys had to come out with the axes and break the ice off before you could even open the trucks. It was up Saskatoon in February. Been there.
But the smart thing was people were so starved for entertainment, and the only place that they had the roads completely cleared to and the parking lots around cleared was places where they play hockey, because it's Canada. So we would play all the hockey arenas all across Canada in January. And they sold 1 million records in Canada alone, which is unheard of. Canadian platinum, I think, is like 50,000 units. They sold 1 million records up there and became, the gods of Canada, as you will.
They had the maple fever.
Yeah. But, there's a lot of things that they did that at the time were considered not the standard of the norm, but it made them a huge band. To this day, And that Styx was only around for like 15, maybe 20 years from their inception when they were all kids to
which
where,
is a fabulous run.
yeah, but then they stopped touring together. They went their separate ways. Everybody went out and said, I'm going to do my solo records, and none of them had a successful career out of it. So they eventually came back together and didn't have the singer. They got a new singer from Canada, and they've been touring like that since 1990, you want to say, so 33 years. And they just played here in Columbus last night.
Wow.
Still out there touring, and it's just that I say congratulations, good for them, but they're 70 fucking years old,
Yeah.
But a lot of those bands, and think about this, think about Foreigner, okay? How many original members are touring?
Oh, I just turned down that tour because I didn't want to be away for 10 weeks.
Zero original members.
Zero.
Mick used to come out and play occasionally, but now he doesn't even do that because he's 76 or something like that.
Yeah.
Too tired. Yeah, and they sound great, but they're not they're essentially a cover band.
They're a cover band, and Loverboy is not in shape to be out there on the road doing it.
Yeah, Reno's got his own zip code. He's a big boy now, but you know what? He still can sing.
Yeah, give him that.
King of hits, but and
he's working for
people
the
will go out, and people our age, they'll go out and they'll go see an act simply because it's $40. And then go out with their wife for spend less than $100 and have a night out on with your wife, as opposed to spending $1,000 to go to some of these shows to get a shitty seat up in the nosebleeds, let alone all the parking and the rest of that crap. But it comes down to it's an entertaining night out, and I like seeing that. It's nice to see after COVID artists getting out and playing and people going out and enjoying themselves. I have to be honest with you, though, I have not been to more than one show since COVID.
As a patron?
Not exactly.
So did you go through the front door and hand somebody a ticket? Yes or no?
No.
Here's what happened. So you haven't been to any shows.
Well, it's an interesting part of the story, but it's more the end of the story than the beginning. But I'll tell it anyway.
Please.
I was in New Zealand in 2019, and we were doing the Joshua Tree 3.0, where we're going to milk this titty fucking the third year in a row. But it was the evil that I know. We were over there with 50 trucks of gear and about to start in Auckland and then do Australia and Southeast Asia and India and all the bullshit places over there that you go to. And no big deal, nothing unusual. But half hour before the first show, I had a stroke.
Ooh.
What the fuck?
Yeah, not cool.
No, I mean, my whole left side just stopped working. And I was like, what? I'm not that old. What the fuck's going on with my body? So I'm freaking out. And they fortunately took me to the University of New Zealand, which is about half a mile away, which how lucky am I? They have the greatest stroke ward of any hospital in the fucking world. I mean, they have, this is where they do all the research on it and come up with, game plans. So anyway, boring story short, in 3 days, they got everything working again without surgery. They're shoving needles down there to get up into my brain and dissolve the clot. And technology was amazing. I'm extremely grateful. Man. But after you have a stroke, you can't fly. So the band said, love you, but
we got you a canoe and a great.
So I had to stay there for a month and think about it. And you really take stock and say, you know what? I've had a great fucking life, but I really don't feel it. I've got other plans. I really don't want to die. So maybe it's time to retire. So I came home and I was like, I didn't say anything to anybody about retiring or anything. I just said, let me just think about it. And COVID hit. Ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
I have never in my life, because I've always gone from one tour to the next, never in my life applied for unemployment. But for COVID, I did. Yes, sir. That was great. But nobody was touring. I decided, how you go, well, someday I'm gonna ...
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna get past all those dots and do all the things that I always wanted to do. First thing was I wanted to learn Logic. Multi-track recording.
Sure.
So I went online and looked at tutorial videos, and you see all these things, and there's lots of them out there. I mean, anymore. I was saying this to you the other day. I think I'm not going to pay a repairman for anything. Something breaks in my house. The other day, my washer
Gotta
broke.
YouTube it.
Went on YouTube, bought a part for $34, and it was fixed. I called the repair guy first. He wanted $480 to come out and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I go on there and I'm looking on YouTube videos, figuring out logic and stuff. But you go to the tutorial videos the guys put out, and they want to tell you about their project and want you to subscribe and ring the bell and blah 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 blah. So I discovered if you go and look at YouTube videos made by 17-year-old Indonesian kids, barely speak English, they get right to the point. They tell, yeah, you want to do that? You go here, you hit that, you want to, and a shortcut go like this, and done. And I learned so much in such a short period of time. But in audio, you know what it's like to learn. You got to do it. You got to touch it. I don't know if you can see what I got here.
Yep.
It's that.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, got my 32X there. Plugged that into Logic, hooked it up, figured out how to interface it. And now I got knobs to play with instead of virtual shit.
Yeah.
And you heard what I sent you the other day.
That's terrific. It's terrific.
But I'm just having fun. I'm not going to get a record deal. It's not like I'm going to set the internet on fire. I'm just fucking having fun and doing someday I'm going to learn how to do this shit. And it's fucking great.
Yeah.
But after that, I kind of let it out, because I have a good relationship with Live Nation. And I kept getting calls to do tours. And I was like, I need to just take care of my health first. And, just left that as it was. And then I got a call from Stacey Harper, who I'm sure you know very well with Live Nation.
I known Stacey Harper a long time.
Exactly. And she called me up. She goes, Rock, do you know a guitar tech in Columbus that I could hire for one show? I was like, not really, because I don't get out much, but what's it pay? She goes, $400. I go, you just found your guy.
I'll do it.
She goes, don't you want to know who it is? I said, for $400, I don't care if it's fucking Marilyn Manson. I'm going to go do it. She goes, okay. I said, who is it? Adam Sandler.
Oh, easy.
What a fucking piece of cake and super nice guy. And what he's doing is he goes out there, and rather than paying a guitar tech, because he has got 6 guitars, you tune them, you set them on the stands, and then you just stand there through the whole show, his whole set, and he reaches for it. When he reaches for one, you hit go. How cool is that? So I took the gig. I went and did it, and it was so weird to be back in a big venue again, and to just feel the vibe. And I was like, man, maybe I should go back and start doing this again. And then I came back here and went down to my basement. I said, you know what? Who the fuck needs that?
Yeah. Take that. Take that. Rocko, here's the thing. You never do the last show. You only do your last show. And the machine moves on.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's what do you need in your resume to make you feel whole? And the answer is nothing.
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't have a resume.
I've never put one together.
I did though, and as part of back to our story about getting clean and sober, I was up to an 8-ball on a bottle of Jack Daniels a day in 1989, same as you. And I heard that Aerosmith was looking for a whole new crew. They fired everybody because they went through rehab, and as soon as they came back out and hit the road again, their crew snuck them blow and booze. So they fired everybody, and they put the word out that if you want to work for Aerosmith, the pay is great, but it's very strict. No drinking, no drugs, not even a beer on a day off, 0 tolerance. And they had guys out on the tour, a former Arizona State trooper as their aero cop, to make sure that everybody complied to it. But if you were in the golden circle of tour manager, production manager, stage manager, anything with manager attached to it, and you had direct contact with the band, you had to go through the program with them.
Wow.
So I did. And, we all did, and we all got clean and sober. And, everybody, we kind of faltered along at a time. We'd sneak out every now. Then I was like, you know what? It's time.
Yeah.
And I not only started to like the way I felt, I liked me. I was proud of me. And that's a good fucking feeling.
Yeah,
you
baby.
know? I don't have any kids, but it's probably the same kind of feeling where you feel like you're finally responsible for something and it's something that's bigger than you are. And it really changed my perspective on a lot of things. And then from there, I met my wife, who's 15 years younger than me, and she's a lawyer now. And I met her and moved here to Columbus because after I went through rehab, they said, okay, congratulations, you're now clean and sober. Now you're going to move.
Now get the fuck out.
I was like, to where? They go, someplace you don't know any drug dealers. So I literally threw a dart at a map of North America and it hit Columbus, Ohio. And I moved here in 92.
Nice.
I've been here ever since. And to this day, I've never been to a bar here. And I don't really know anybody except a few musicians I've met from time to time. I tried joining a band through Craigslist. And every band that I went out to try to play with and everything like that, I'd come in and, I'm not Yngwie Malmsteen or anything, but I can play, and I have a good time of it. But I'd come out and I'd play with these guys and go, man, you're really fucking good. How come you've never played in a band before? And I'm like, well, and then I tell the story and they're like, whoa, fuck, you work for you too. And then they were less interested in me playing in the band as opposed to getting free tickets to the shows that come to town.
Yeah, dig
You
that.
know that feeling?
Yes.
And I just said, you know what? I don't really need to jam with these people. I just go down to my basement, play with my
Stay
50
in my lane.
guitars and all the rest of the shit and do more
Yeah.
multi. So, and anymore, and it's not, if I was going to play out somewhere, I'd get over it. Although I did play in a band with Journey. This is an interesting story. This house that I moved into here, I moved in on April 1st of 2004. And I used stagehands from Polaris Amphitheater, which is about 2 miles down the road here, in 4 hours with 4 24-foot Hertz trucks. We moved my entire house from one side of Columbus over to this house I'm in now. So I moved in on the 1st, didn't meet any of my neighbors. And on the 3rd, I left to go be production manager with Journey on tour. So fast forward, we're playing in Kettering, Ohio, about a mile from here, on July 3rd and July 5th. But they had the 4th off because Dayton had a big fireworks show. So we loaded in there and then had the day off and then didn't have to load out. So I came back, did 2 shows. But when I saw that on the calendar, the itinerary, I said to the band, I go, hey, I just moved into a new house not far from there. Why don't you guys bring your family out and everything? We'll have a big 4th of July party at my new house.
Nice.
So I called ahead and I called the local rental company. I had tents set up and tables and chairs out in the backyard and a big grill and a wet bar thing. So we just, came in and stuff's all set up in there. And when the band, all of a sudden, I had never met any of my neighbors. All of a sudden, these 3 silver tour buses pull up in front of my house on my street. We're looking out the window going, what the fuck? And we get out and I go, okay, boys, it's a day off. Crew, don't do anything. Band, you're cooking and serving drinks.
Nice.
And they, what? But they had, because they're rock stars. They never get to do that. They had a fucking blast, burning chicken and pouring the hot and all the rest of this stuff, and just being fucking guys. And you've seen that because nothing worse in a rock star's life. Because think about the life of a rock star. You work your ass off to get a big hit record and that big hit single that everybody wants to hear, and then you got to play it for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah.
And you hate that song, but you got to play it with the energy, because the people out in the audience, that's what I tell every artist I work for. I go, buddy, you're not the most important person in the building, and neither am I. They are, because they're working their ass off to buy tickets to come and see you play, and they don't care that you're tired or you're hungover or your wife hates you or your kids hate you.
All true.
Yeah, you got to get up and play it like it's the coolest fucking song ever written, and it's the first time you've ever played it. And if they don't get that, then I got no time for them. And you know how artists are about stuff like that. But the ones that get it are performers. The ones that don't are fuck ups. And I don't want to work for fuck ups. So I try to avoid stuff like that. But anyway, we did that, and after we got done with dinner and everything, when Journey was here, I had brought all this gear from the basement up into the garage. And because what do you do on 4th of July? You have garage, right?
Yeah.
So I had Journey playing in my fucking garage at 6:05 on 4th of July. But that was the other thing. I go, it's a day off, boys. No Journey songs. So we're playing Zeppelin and the Who, Pink
No
Floyd,
Journey
and shit like
songs.
that. And it's just, and you know, my crew on there is all great musicians. They're
Sure.
big boys, but they're great musicians. So that's how I met my neighbors, by having Journey play it in my garage. But the funniest part was the next morning. You know, I had to bring garbage out to the curb because it was garbage day that day, and leave it there before I went back to Kettering. But the show's all set up. So at 7:30 in the morning, I'm dragging bags of garbage out to the curb, and I live in a nice neighborhood, and there's a lot of doctors and lawyers with trophy wives and stuff. And 4 of the trophy wives come up at 7:30 in the morning, dressed nice, and their hair and makeup is on. And they go, "Is the band still here?" I'm going, "You back of the tour bus before, baby." I know, they're not. But that's how I met my neighbors. And to this day, they watch my house, but every 4th of July, they're like, "Who's playing here this year?"
Yeah, got the eyes out.
But that developed into the band discovering that, because then everybody's letting their hair down, we're having a good time, and they realized exactly how good musicians all of their crew was, because we were jamming and just handing guitars back and forth and not stopping in between, and just one jam would lead to another and everything. So
that's great.
These guys are really fucking good musicians, so we were going out and finishing the rest of the tour playing state fairs. And in state fairs, that they pay the artist a shitload of money. At that point in time, this is 2004, they were paying like $500,000 for a show, and you're carrying So we call up, and then we played the first couple of shows, but it's an evening with Journey with an 8:00 ticket. 8:00 in June, the sun is still up till 10:00 at night.
Yeah.
And further north you go, even more. So the band's like, "Hey man, this sucks. What the fuck are we carrying lights for if we're not going to see them?"
Right.
So I called up the promoters and the state fairs and stuff like that, and I said, "Look, can we get a local support act to come and play and eat up some time?" They go, "Dude, we paid you every fucking dime we're going to give you. We have no
nothing left."
Act. I said, "Well, can we just start later?" They go, "No, it's a ticketed price, and we want to get people out on the midway after you're done." I said,
"Yep.
How about if we just delay it a half hour?" They go, "Well, if anybody complains, then you have to start." And I go, "Okay, yeah, I'll guarantee that." Not.
Yeah.
But then it came down to, we had Journey's gear set up there, and we were doing. Oh, and the other thing too is, I told them, "Guys, why are you coming in for sound checks playing songs that you hate fucking playing? Let alone sound checks does us no good, because as soon as you fill it with fat chicks with big hair, it sounds completely different."
All true.
He said, "Your sound check is the first song." I said, "We'll do the sound check for you, and that way you guys can hang at the hotel or whatever."
Just fuck off in the afternoon.
Well, I'm not sitting in in a stinky trailer at a state fair venue for 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever. Yeah. So that turned into that, and then I just one day on a whim, I said, "Guys, do you mind if we be your opening act on your gear?" And Neil's like, "Sure, man, it'd be fucking great." He thought I was kidding. We didn't. Yeah. I got up. We got up and we started playing. We opened with. We did a half-hour set of cover tunes, and we opened with Badfingers, "No Matter What." No matter great. What you are, and everybody's good players, good singers, and we all played, pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's great.
The audience get all excited, and they come run up to the barricade, and you just see the look on their face, because they go, "Yeah, holy shit, is Journey fat, man? What the fuck is this?" And then we finish the song, and I get up there and I go, "Right about now, you're probably asking yourself, who the hell are these guys?"
Right.
I said, "We're the Journey crew, and we're going to play for a half hour till it gets a little darker. You guys mind?" And then at that point, the audience, you can just see them, the look on their face where they're like, "Okay, cool." And I'd walk out in the crowd and shit and stick the mic in front of people's faces, so it's karaoke, and just
nice,
be entertaining. Man. Well, just being a knucklehead, but and the audience loved it.
Yeah.
The band loved it because they could play. The promoter loved it. So it turned into, we did it every night over the course of the tour.
Yeah.
And the name of our band was Rocko and the Devils.
Perfect.
Yeah. So when you get bored sometime, Google it on YouTube and you'll see.
I'll be doing it today.
Because then it turned into the Irish guy heard about it. And my relationship with U2 has always been, I talk to them like I talk to you. You know, I don't treat everybody else. You know, you go into the dressing room, everybody's whispering stuff, and I go in there and I'm like, "Hey, Bono, where you at?" Yeah, what? No, like I don't do that. And they've grown to expect that. Well, Bono came off stage one day and he said, "Man, my throat's really rough." And they said, "How is mine?" I go, "You suck." What did you say to me? I said, "You didn't suck, but you know, you seem to think you did. So if that makes you happy, but you think it's so fucking easy, you get up and do it." I go, "What's it pay?" He walked away like that. And I was like, "Oh shit, I said the wrong thing." And at the end of the show, before I'm starting to load out, the manager, Paul McGinnis, comes up to me and he goes, 30 grand. I was like, "What?" "That's what it would pay you to open the show." I said, "When?" He said, "Last show of the tour in Honolulu." Okay. So we opened the show for not only U2, but Pearl Jam and Aloha Stadium. How fucking cool is that?
That's pretty cool, man.
And U2 audience, you know, U2 fans are rabid. You know, they all knew who I was as the stage manager.
Yeah.
So, and when the stage manager is the opening act, it's kind of, here's my dog, and it does a cool trick, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but they were very nice to us, and the last song of our set was "I Want to Be Sedated," which the audience just went. I mean, it was one of those floating arena stadiums, and the whole place is hot, pogo dancing.
That's
and the
beautiful.
whole fucking, you know, stadium is jumping up and down like that. And I'm like, okay, I can die now, you know. But I got to be a rock star for one day, and I realized it's a good thing I was a roadie. Because if I would have been a rock star, I would have been a really good rock star, and I'd have been dead by 27, like Jim Morrison.
and all the rest, having some excess, you know.
So I look back at my life and I go, you know what? It was a great fucking life, and it wasn't just, you know the feeling. You don't work for the money. You don't work for the artist. You work for yourself.
Yeah.
I busted my ass because that's who I am. You know, I don't give. Everybody says you can't give more than 100%. Oh, I give 110%. No, you don't. You can only give 100%, but 100% of yourself is a lot.
It is.
And you know, I look behind you and I see all of those passes, and those don't represent. Oh, look at all the cool people I know, because none of them probably remember your name. You know, but it just represents why what we do.
Yeah.
You do it because it's what's in you. It's what gives you the greatest pleasure. And when you hear those people clapping, it goes to you. You know, they're as far as I'm concerned, when I hear the audience going nuts, that means my team did a great fucking job putting this together. So these monkeys can get up there and fucking move around and take credit for it all. But you know what? We put it together. And the relationships, you know as well as I do, two things matter in life: your health and your family.
Yep.
That's it. And by family, I don't necessarily mean your wife and your kids and your blood.
Personal relationships.
It's the people who you trust, who you know are going to cover your ass if you're falling, you know. And you can count those people on one hand, two hands and both feet, but there's a lot of them, and a lot of them that you care about. But I wouldn't have done, if people say, well, if you could change anything in your life, what would you have done differently? Not a fucking thing.
Yeah.
I can see it in your eyes too. Right on, bro.
Right on, bro. It's all true. You know, I mean, it's very tough to get me to leave my house to go do anything. But once I'm there, I'm just a fish that you drop in the water.
Yeah.
And now I'm in my environment. This is where I thrive in this environment. You know, there's a reason I didn't work in recording studios, because I consider that indoor cat stuff. You know, I wanted to be out in it, in the events, you know, back from being a kid and seeing stadium shows and being with all that human energy. That's the part I dig, you know.
Uh-huh.
Let me ask you this. So how long were you with Aerosmith?
From 1980, I started with, I want to say 87, but it probably was 88 on the Done with Mirrors tour.
I saw it.
Yeah, stage manager on that. God, I wish I could remember his name, but he got injured and lost a finger.
Who?
And they needed somebody right away, and I was available, so I went out
With
and did
10
it.
fingers, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, the next one after Done with Mirrors was Permanent Vacation. So I did that whole tour, and then I did the Pump tour. And then after that, and this is a funny thing, talking about resumes. After that, I went out and did the worst tour of my life in '91, MC Hammer. And the reason it was the worst tour is, first of all, it was an Al Heyman tour. Second of all, it was sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken. Third of all, Al Heyman worked it out so that to get away with not having catering, he had free Kentucky Fried Chicken in catering for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Bro, I have done a lot of fucking Al Heyman shows. And that story of the MC Hammer tour and the fried chicken is fucking legendary. And we all heard it. And, you know,
yeah, but I lived it. So it finally got down to one day I was going to go into catering in Houston. Remember the old gig there in Houston where catering was way down that long hallway? So I was going down the long hallway, and you know, it's like 3/4 of the way around the arena just to get to it. I get down there and I just wanted a cup of coffee. It was like 5 o'clock or something like that. I want a cup of coffee. I go to walk into catering, and one of his security guys, who are these 400-pound dudes wearing suits,
right out of
goes,
prison.
"You can't go in there. I'm doing a radio interview." I go, "I'll be real quiet. He knows who I am." It's okay. So I went in there, started, you know, walking through the door, and he grabbed my arm. He goes, "You ain't going in there." I said, "Please take your hand off of me." And he let go of me. And I started to walk in again, and he pulled out a gun. He goes, "You ain't going." I go, okay, no arguments. Went into production, set my radio down, told the production manager what happened. He goes, "I'm done. I'm going home." He goes, "I don't blame you." And I went home. So got through that. I got home, was sitting at home for the longest period of time I'd ever been sitting at home for, because I was obligated to finish the rest of the tour, and I suddenly quit. Only tour I ever quit up to that point. And then I get a call to do U2. So I went from the worst tour of my life to the best tour of my
life. I'm laughing because they pulled guns on me and I did the rest of the tour. I get, they pulled a gun. Yeah. And then what?
Yeah, I don't know. My feeling about, I've never owned a gun, and I respect people who know what they're doing with it, but I know you have to know yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
If I had a gun, I would kill motherfuckers left and right. I would. And I'm really smart. I'd get away with it.
It's all about the restraint.
So yeah, just leave that to the tools to the proper authorities.
Yeah, the Al Heyman experience will. And here's the thing that I want to be clear about these Al Heyman shows, right? Is that the ticket price for these poorly run tours were the exact same ticket price as any other tour. The difference was how much money was being shoved in the pockets of the wrong people. The reason you got KFC is because he's not paying the caterer, which every other show does. You know, the same with, and that's the line item that's right in front of you. You know, of what they're skipping on.
And I mean, because people say, well, you know, you appear kind of racist. I'm not racist. Many things I am. Racist ain't one of them.
It ain't about that.
You don't treat the people. Plus, you know, we were gigging 6 days a week, and on the 7th day, it was a bus ride 1,000 miles or whatever. So, and it's, you know, that which does not kill me makes me stronger. No, to this day, I can't eat KFC.
No, I was doing Al Heyman tours, and I was driving the semi, hanging the arena PA, and mixing the show, and taking it all down, and taking it to the next city, and not being fed, and you know. And at one point, after they pulled guns on me in California, because I demanded $10,000, the sound company called me and said, "We need $10,000. You can load the show up." I go in the production office. Two guys behind Skip the Details and Huggy
Yes.
pull guns out. And I said, oh, okay. And then I went in the arena. I got the stage-hands. I started landing the PA. Now they come out with all the goons. Now I'm with 20 stagehands that are on my side of the situation. And poof, now I get $10,000. I come back from the bank after wiring that money, and they issue me a new pass that said motherfucker. Where the name went, and I put that in the garbage, and I did the rest of the tour, and I never did another show for them.
There you go.
So I dig what you're saying, man. So that was a pretty good leap for you to get out from Al Heyman to you too. And where was the first place that you went and met up with that production?
With U2?
Yep.
In Hershey, Pennsylvania. We did a month of rehearsal outdoors. It was the first, this is the Zoo TV tour.
Wow. And what year was that?
92.
Okay.
Yeah. And I came into that, and actually I was brought out because Tim Lamb was out as stage manager on it. And they went from doing indoor arena shows on Zoo TV with 18 trucks or something like that to this outdoor huge production. It was like 30, 40 trucks, something like that. I can't even remember, but it was big. So,
Yeah.
and Tim and I got along great. We did a lot of pitch and catch, and it was, we were very like-minded, as you do when you get into stuff like that. But then on the next tour, Pop Mart, he wasn't asked back for whatever reason. I don't know, but and Tim and I are still very good friends to this day. But I was like suddenly the stage manager on this big fucking show. Okay, that which doesn't kill me. Will probably fuck up my knees really good.
Well, will not kill me, will slowly injure me over time.
But then, after that, I was just, I was the stage manager. But same thing. Now, I have to say, too, that I first met U2 on a Jay Giles tour in 1980.
Oh, wow.
They were the opening act, and they were right out of the box, like maybe 18, 19 years old, and they sucked. They were horrible, but there was just something about Bono and his stupid mullet haircut and his attitude and just, the way he'd get the audience right fucking there.
Yep.
And the palm of his hand, especially a Jay Giles band audience, because that's all Midwestern party fuck up. People.
Yeah, not ready for a message.
But I was nice to them.
Good.
They were poor as piss. It was four guys and their front of house guy Joel Early in a van, and that was them touring with their gear in the back of the van. And I was nice to them, and they'd show up, and I'd let them into the dressing room and showers, and then come into catering and all the rest of that stuff. And at one point, I got reprimanded by management saying, well, it's really not your place to, allow these people to come in. And I was like, dude, get over it. Just be a fucking human being, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And there was just something in my gut, and that where you see somebody and just something in your gut says, these guys are going to go places.
Yeah, dig that.
I just knew it, back then. So anyway, they're like, oh, thanks for everything. Someday you're going to work for us. I was like, yeah, whatever. Okay, take your haircut and get the fuck out of here. But then years later, when I show up, they're like, oh, you're back like a bad penny then, huh?
That's always turning up.
But by the same token, I knew them when they were little punk kids just getting started and stuff. And I had faith in them. And I told them that. I go, you guys are going to be fucking huge someday. And when their manager, Paul McGinnis, called me up and offered me the job, he's like, they can afford you now. Like, okay.
Finally.
Glad to hear that. I'm glad the checks are going to clear the bank.
Yeah, finally it turns
We
around.
established our relationship as I don't kowtow to you because you're the great Bono. I go, I'm a one name guy too, Rocko. Okay.
Yep.
So, but because of that, I could talk to them like guys. And there's nothing a rock star likes better, especially on that level, than being a guy.
Bro, you are 100% like that. Should be a book that you write, and that's one page, one paragraph, and the end of story.
The title of the book.
That's the title, and that's the ending.
The title of the book will be, one of the titles I'm thinking of is, I Fancy a Snickers Bar. Because if he kind of, if he wanted to go, we don't allow him to carry money around because he can't walk into a 7-Eleven and buy a Snickers bar.
No.
He'd be pumped,
Yeah.
But if he utters under his breath, I fancy a Snickers bar, 6 guys run out, grab it, and shove it in his face.
Yeah.
that drives you nuts after a while.
Yeah,
You
sure.
just want to be a fucking guy. You
Yep.
know, you hear, I'm sure you've heard many stories, if not witnessed it, where the rock star puts on a hat and funny glasses and goes walking out in the crowd just to see what it's like to be a punter. You know,
Yeah.
because they can't do that. They can't go to somebody else's show and go out and stand in front of house, because then there'd be as many people out there seeking autographs. You know, and it's, if the artist feels weird because he doesn't want to take attention away from the guy who's up on stage whose show it is. You know, so they'll stand on the side or somewhere else. You know, but the real ones will dress in funny hats and go out there and fucking be part of the experience, because that's the coolest place on earth. It's not up there on stage with
You're right.
lights blinding in your face, playing a song you fucking hate. It's about the experience. It's about the interaction. It's about the excitement. It's about feeling your pulse. You know.
Yeah, that energy is what keeps these guys still playing in their 70s, because once you have that adrenaline rush, where else do you get it?
Nah, I disagree. The reason they're still playing in their 70s is because they're still paying for their ex-wives.
Well,
Sorry.
Neil, somebody
Sorry. Come on.
touche. A
Okay,
valid
quick
point.
story about being a guy. We were out on the road, and I was told, as a stage manager, we need to get a porta potty close behind the stage. I said, okay. Well, we're doing a 2.5-hour show. Sometimes one of the band members needs to take a pee. Oh, okay.
Stones do it.
So I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So I started checking into it, and I was told that Tim McGraw and Faith Hill had a very nice bathroom cabinet, we'll call it, under the stage. And you know, a porta potty, it won't fit under most stages because it's a little too tall. And we could have modified one and brought it on, yeah. But I said we'd have to put it just outside the back of the thing. And this is in 2001 or something like that, when the internet was kicking in. And I said, but do you really want a picture on the internet of you coming out of a little blue porta potty? But I don't care how you do it, but we need something. Okay. So I went out to Home Depot and I found the perfect size, which is 45-gallon trash can with a flat top to it, cut an oval hole on it, mounted a toilet seat on it, put a bin liner in it, and filled the bin liner with cat litter.
Oh.
So you don't have the smell of the blue chemical in the toilet. You don't have it sitting outside. And I made some, curtained off areas underneath there. So it comes in for sound check, and he's going, okay, what's your solution? I took him down and I showed it to him, and he looks behind the curtain. He looks in there. Fucking brilliant. Could you do two? Because the drummer needs one as well. So it was my dirty little secret.
I don't want to share.
Yeah. But it comes down to be a guy, all you need is a pot to piss in.
Yeah.
And it was the most important thing in the world to them. But they were just so cool about saying, yeah, I'm a fucking guy. I can piss wherever I want.
I'll use that. Yeah, no problem.
And yeah, but it's and nobody ever pooped in. I don't think anybody ever pooped in it. But it was my dirty little secret because I didn't want to put somebody else on it and have them tell somebody or staging.
Oh yeah.
So and each night I would, as the house lights come on, I'd go in and I'd grab the two bags, tie the top together, drag them out, and throw them away from the stage somewhere. Not just leaving them in a can right behind the stage, because I didn't want anybody finding it or smelling it or whatever. I just didn't want anybody to have to deal with it.
Sure.
But each night I would also think to myself, wow, I bet I could sell fucking little mason jars of this piss.
This is some good piss right here, Irish.
Here's their DNA right here, dude. You can clone them. But I didn't.
Funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I appreciate that. I have only one autograph, and that's from Tony Bennett. And I was doing a show, and Tony was about to start, and I was tapping my Sharpie. Tony was standing next to me. He goes, "Oh, you want my autograph?" And he signed my pass from the night before. And I ended up doing over 50 shows with him over the next decade. But I never ever get my picture taken with an artist. I don't ask for none of that, because I treat everybody like I treat the security guy when I walk in the back door. Hey man, what's happening? I treat everybody absolutely the same. I don't have to ramp up and down. And as you know, the moment the artist realizes that I don't want anything from you, I don't
Right.
want to work from you, I don't want to hang out with you, I just want to get the job done, then they could just kind of let their guard down and
Right.
just be cool, and we could just be cool, do the job, chat about nothing or whatever. But that I don't, as soon as they get the vibe that I'm not trying to angle you, I don't want something from you, I'm not coming from the fan perspective,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, man.
Then they know they don't have to keep the guard up.
That's
You know?
right.
They go, and that becomes very important to you, like a comfy chair, where you know that there's one place you can go where you're not going to have to answer any questions, or same old stupid questions, same old stupid answers, same old stupid requests for autographs, any of the rest of that stuff. You can sit and you can talk about life, about kids, about how
Yeah. and
how
and
koalas are nice animals.
yeah, and at the same point, it's easy to cut through the bullshit when you're straight up all the time. Like, last year at VMAs, I had Nicki Minaj on my stage, and she's got this giant entourage of people that are all frightened to death of her and refuse to ask her any questions. But I'm not afraid of her because I don't care about her, because I don't want anything from her. All I want to know is, can you hear the track? Is your vocal loud enough? Is there any adjustments that you need? Is it clear? Is it coherent for you across the stage? These are the questions that I have,
Yeah.
and everyone else that is just like eyes down, not looking up. It's like, man, what is up with you people? That's the number one problem with artists, is being surrounded by people who are incapable of telling the truth, incapable of being honest, or have their own ulterior motives.
I do believe they call them sycophants.
Oh, they got a name for it now.
Yes, of course they do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you have a mailbox
Sure.
out in front of your house, out at the street?
I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, okay. I have one as well, and I don't know. I don't know if other people have this, because I don't really discuss it that often. But we have these bees with a big black butt on them that move very slow, so they're not honeybees, but they hang out at this mailbox.
Carpenter bees.
Is that what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they dig holes into the redwood that it's made out of and stuff.
Yeah, it's called the side of my garage.
So there's two of them out there every day when I come out, and I didn't know what they were, but my attitude is, if you're respectful to an animal, then the animal won't fuck with you. They don't want to fuck with you. So I just go out and get my mail in, and I call them by name. I named the two of them Beyonce and Nicki Minaj, because they both have big fat black asses.
Nice.
And they respond to it. They go, Nikki, where you at? I'm all in tune with nature and shit.
Yeah. I live in the forest at the end of a dead end road.
Yeah, I know. When you told me you live in Woodstock, cool. I love that area up there. It's God country.
The thing about it too is that my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 neighbors are all weekenders, and I live at the end of a dead end road. So Monday through Friday, there's nobody here.
Yeah.
Which if a human being walks in front of the house, it's a major event.
Do you ever worked with, or do you hear of him in your neighborhood, Jan Hammer, the Miami Vice keyboard guy from Mahavishnu?
Oh man, I know Jan Hammer from back in the Jan Hammer group.
There you go. Okay. He lives up there.
Oh, I bet he does. There's there's nothing but celebrities, movie stars, and musicians up here, and I've been here 26 years.
Yeah.
And the thing about Woodstock is that nobody cares who you are here.
Right.
It's not a place where you go out and wear jewelry and shit. I mean, my wife has helped Mel Gibson pick out mangoes before. I've been in the line of the grocery store with Kelsey Grammer and Steve Tyler with his daughter. It's just a chilled out vibe.
Yeah.
But after the pandemic, a tremendous influx of New Yorkers came up here and really, really pushed the locals out, man. That's my Woodstock story.
I'll
That's
be
what I'm
right over.
saying. That's what I'm saying about Woodstock. Put some changes here. My father's still here. He's patient zero of the hippies. He was a beatnik.
Oh, wow. How old a man is he?
86.
God bless him, man. Cool.
86. He was touring right up to the pandemic. 2 guitars and a bag of dirty clothes, man. He's played 60 countries.
Wow.
Shockingly, you know.
Fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, Peter Walker
Well, that explains
Flamenco.
a lot about you then.
The apple fell close to the tree. You know, my father was in India at the same time with the Beatles learning sitar from Ravi Shankar.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. And
No,
so
I'm sorry. I've been to India. It sucks.
yeah, right. Yeah, so he was the Forrest Gump of the hippies throughout the whole thing. So he's his own thing together. But so let me ask you this: what was your favorite moment of all your time out with U2?
We did a show in Sarajevo right after the war there. And it was the most emotionally challenging thing I've ever done in my life. We came in there because Bono wanted to, the war was just ended and he wanted, Sarajevo, I don't know if you've ever been there. They did an Olympics there. It was a beautiful place before this war happened. And then it was just fucking pandemonium. And the same thing about Ukraine. I've done shows in Ukraine for years and years and years. It's a beautiful place. It's not like some, beat up, Iraq or, someplace in the Middle East kind of place. It's a beautiful modern city. It's like, going through Cleveland and suddenly there's drones blowing your hotel to shit,
Yep.
But we were in there and we had to go in. We had 40 trucks of gear going in. This is a new TV thing. And we had to be escorted in by U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to get the stuff in. And, we're having our meetings with them to tell them how we're going to do it. And they're like, all right, we got 40 semi trucks. So I think we'll get 6 a day in there. I said, no. We're going to unload and set up all 40 trucks in about 12 hours. And he's like, what? Had no, and he goes, there's no fucking way. So I go, just stand back, stay out of the way, and you won't get it. So we go in there and we do it. And my stagehands were, locals from Sarajevo. Sure. But some of them are missing hands. They just got a stump or a leg, or, they have a patch over their eye or whatever. But they're all willing to work and willing to do it. And I said, man, we're going to fucking do this. But just, it tears your heart out. We got it and we did a show. But we're staying at the Holiday Inn there, and you go into your room, and there's bullet holes in it, and blood on the floor. And you realize, and this is the real fucking deal. This is you see it on the news, but to be in there in the middle of it, and the conflict was over, but just seeing that, and then as we're loading out, same thing. It just made you realize what a fucking great world we live
in. Yeah,
what a bunch of assholes people are.
Yeah, no doubt.
No
doubt.
You can tell people the story of this and they just have no fucking clue. It's like, you ever try and tell somebody what you do for a living? They can't wrap their head around it,
Yeah.
90% of the people who go out to a show look up at the production that's on stage there and they think it's just something they have in the back room that they drag out when a rock show comes to town, and they think the artist walks in with their guitar and go, where do I plug in?
Right.
It's like they have no clue what it takes to put on a big show. Some people do, and more people do as the internet came around. But back then, nobody had a fucking clue. And just to see that and to realize, I think about all the stuff that I used to do and, being a selfish American bastard. And then you see something like that, it really changes your perspective on the human condition.
Oh,
and
bro, the shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, talk about going to a part of the world where a plastic bag is considered a possession.
Yeah.
Where I saw a homeless 2-year-old take a shit between 2 parked cars and naked and disappear back into the crowd.
Yeah, but you've done that as well, so come on. No, I didn't disappear back into the crowd. I went backstage.
You know where I went. Yeah, well, let me say this to you, Rocco. I mean, how old were you when you had your stroke?
Well, it was 2019, so it was 67.
67 at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me put this in perspective. You know, you haven't exactly been working 40 hours a week your entire lifetime, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 40 hours a part-timer. Come on.
Yeah, right. By the time we get by 60 years old, I've worked 3 lifetimes. I've worked 3 40-hour-a-week cycles in a lifetime.
In a week.
Yeah, you know, it's not like you worked one lifetime to get where you're at. You've worked several because of the amount of hours put into the craft, put in the profession. I mean, all the years of your life that you didn't sleep in your own bed. It's not a 18-hour a day job. It's a 24-hour a day job. You know, I just it's very difficult to explain to people that aren't in our industry exactly how much time of our life it takes up. Even if I was in a submarine fucking out to sea, I'd be home more.
Yeah, honest to God. Yeah. But do you find that when you come home from the road, it's hard to sleep in all that quiet?
Oh, yeah. Well, I will say this: that I could sleep anywhere. I could
True
sleep.
that. I could sleep on a pile of broken bricks, man.
Under the stage while the show's going on. No problem. I could get a 10 in.
Yeah, and even when I was doing tons of blow, man, I could fucking okay.
Yeah, that's the plus side to exhaustion.
I guess I'll let you know.
Yeah, always able to shut down.
I switched to super glue.
Nice. One nostril at a time. Brother, man, it's been great. It's been great doing this, and we should definitely do it again.
Okay.
You know,
Be a stranger, man. Give me a call. I'm just sitting here fucking making tunes and shit.
Yeah, that's great. We could talk about that. And you know, when are you writing your epic?
I already have.
Oh.
But, and this is off the record. This is just between you and me.
Come on, guys, get this shit in the truck. Let's go. Come on. Hop to it. Let's go. We do it all night. Remember, if it starts to fall, throw your body under it for the good of the show. Got it. Got it. You're good.